Isn't life funny? I knew that somewhere I had a photograph of a sangoma with feathers on his head. I could not think where it was, and I went through all my books, and I suddenly thought, yes, I know when it was. It was when Dad took my mother home to Cholocho for the first time, and a huge welcoming party greeted them. I don't know if you can see that, but it gives you a bit of an indication. So this was 1936 at Cholocho, and there was my man with the feathers on his head. So I've been able to adapt that and bring him to life, which has been great. But what an interesting time it was at that time. And then when I grew up as a child in the early 1940s, and all the things that were happening, all the influences on various people at that time. And that's what I found so fascinating about writing, is what on earth made somebody do that? And why was that reaction, etc., etc. So here we go with a little bit more of a development on Jabu, who last time was desperately visiting Kora so that he could get forgiveness and get his broken Izukomo back into the mud so that they could make more mud for new people. So here we go. Jabu had made a major decision in his life. And now he was a man at last. The first spill of semen had signaled the start of a much anticipated journey. He left the comfort of his father's brick house at the government school in Yamantlopo, with its comfortable bed, an inside pikinikaya, or toilet, and a kitchen warm with the lingering smell of last night's stew and mealie meal. Then, shivering with a thrill of apprehension at what lay ahead, he walked into the bush to heap up mounds of long grass, beating and dropping each armful twice to make sure there were no poisonous snakes lurking inside. Satisfied, he curled up, spreading the grass round his naked body for warmth. Although initiation and circumcision had now almost disappeared since the Zulu nation had grown by so many people so fast, Jabu had specially asked to participate in a traditional circumcision for a Zulu and a Matebele warrior as soon as he became a man. He had watched and waited till the time of early dawn before waking his father to quietly tell him of his manhood. You are the son and the grandson of an important chief, Jabulan, and you have decided. We now walk to the village of our clan. Father and son walked in the chill of morning before the sun chased the night away, and when it was too hot to walk without shade, they walked for 2 days through the granite hills to their ancestral village near the sacred mountains of Ntabasikamambo. They worked fast with no talking to waste breathing, and then they walked slow, then fast again, for there were many miles to cover. On the third day, when the sun stood over their heads, making very small black shadows, they saw the shape of their village against the hills. Go well, my son. You carry the blood of the Matebele nation. You are the grandson of great Njan in the royal clan of Khumalo and the bull elephant. Jabu walked up, as custom demanded, to stand in his nakedness at the entrance to the village of his forefathers and show his manhood. He was still young, but he stood straight and tall before the cousins and friends of his early childhood. He was strong from fights, from hunting and herding. And the sons of the village came to greet him and to beat him lightly with sticks. Some beatings were hard, to show revenge for angry things in the past. But he didn't flinch from the pain, and now all would be forgiven. As tradition demanded, he asked for the Sangoma, the spirit guide, to come to prove his courage and his strength. He would have to stand still, no leaning, no moving, until the Sangoma arrived. He waited, standing, naked, not moving. The Sangoma lived in the caves of the Ntabasikamambo. He would talk with the booming voice of Mkwati, the powerful spiritual leader of the Matebele people in the years past. But that voice of property, of warnings and anger, was quiet now. The Sangoma still looked after the caves, and he sometimes spoke out warnings for the village, and he made the rain fall. But he was not the Mkwati. No longer did the chiefs and headmen pay their regular visit every year to give thanks for the harvest, to tell of great triumphs and bad disasters, and to ask for good rains for the next year. Jabu knew that he would stand still for long hours before the Sangoma came to him. He had practiced for many moons, standing without movement, needing no water. He heard sounds in the distance, the ululating of village women who were escorting the Sangoma. Then he could see him, and he watched the old man walking so slowly through the village of grass and mud huts to the thump-thump foot stamping of the men and the louder and louder ululating and dancing of women and children. The Sangoma's headdress of feathers made him as tall as an ostrich. His head and neck bands told important stories, decorated with the teeth of lion, the tusk of warthog, and the skin of poisonous snake. As he got closer, he locked his eyes on this son of Khumalo and slowly straightened up, getting taller and bigger until he stood high over Jabu with narrowed eyes that dimmed, sparkled, shone, dimmed again, and saw everything. They blazed as he screamed at Jabu, shouting out ancestral imprecations. Jabu's worth as a Matebele warrior was being tested. The Sangoma was no longer old. The light in his eye became bright and hard. He danced and he jumped and he screamed again. His necklaces of seeds and beads rattled and flew, and the ochre face paint and leopard skin round his body moved and molded together until he became as one with the animal of his ancestral spirit. Then the Sangoma brought his face close to Jabu and stared hard for a long time. He moved around to each side, eyes wide, looking. Then he walked behind him and shrieked. Jabu didn't jump, he didn't look away, he didn't shut his eyes. As the Sangoma prepared the sharp stone for the ritual cutting, he made no noise or movement as the Sangoma led his childhood away. The people pressed closer to watch the cutting, to wash Jabu's face. Some even came closer to catch the blood and make them a fortunate future. To show pain was weakness, unworthy of a son of Khumalo. The Sangoma women gave him insangu, dacha, or marijuana to help with the pain. He inhaled the smoke gladly, but allowed no relief to show. Herbs were mixed, and the chanting grew as muti, or medicine, was smeared on the bleeding, while the gleaming dark skin of a young sable antelope was fitted round his shoulders. The Sangoma lunged at him with the sharp, stabbing spear of the Matebele, and the tip closer to Jabu's eyes and the hair of his chest. Jabulani did not move. He was strong. He was brave. His name would be changed to mark this day and to show his courage. Jabulizani, his father used his childhood name. You have indeed brought us the rejoicing of the name we gave you when you were born. But now you take your place in the regiments of your great-grandfather. Now you have the strength and the courage to look after and restore our people. His father placed the palm of his hand on his son's forehead. You are Bekisizwe, restorer of your people. Jabu was bursting inside. He'd been given the powerful name Bekisizwe. It was more than he had hoped. He had purpose now to look after his nation, to lead them, to restore their former kingdom with wisdom and firm rule. He was a man on a mission. So there you are, Jabu's character really beginning to come together. And next week, going to be very different. Carol goes to boarding school. She hates every single moment of it. And she loses touch with all her friends. Them's the breaks.